KMR, Kyle Mohan Racing. Welcome back. We're doing another technical talk here, adding to our 20B catalog of information. We're going to talk about studding, strengthening blocks with aftermarket studs. I prefer 1/2 inch versus the OEM size. And we're going to talk about why I like it and what it's doing for the block and why it makes it more reliable and you can run more horsepower. So essentially, when you're talking about a 20B block, they're longer than the traditional 13B. They're not as long as a 4-rotor, but you're running into torsional twisting of the block. As the motor's spinning, loading, unloading, boosting, nitrosing, whatever it may be, the motor's trying to twist and flex. And so your studs are a great way to reduce this. Now, traditionally with rotary engines, I think a lot of people would have done dowel pinning or added extra dowel pins. And that's referring to the dowel pins that reside back here in the oil gallery. And that did help strengthen the blocks. It's a good thing to do, but unfortunately it's not really applicable to 20B blocks and in some cases Cosmo 13B blocks due to the castings being thin around some of the tension bolt holes. So as rotaries developed more and more power, I think Australia started doing it first with Japan and the USA coming in a fight for second. But we started importing 1/2 inch studs originally from Australia. Now we get them made in the US. But essentially that ended up being a complete replacement for all of the OEM tension bolts versus just adding more OEM dowels into other areas, or in some cases even going solid dowel, which still can be recommendable. I think in a lot of cases, drag racing, high boost, you can do studding and solid dowels. But essentially taking block strengthening to the next level. This probably started coming around about 10 years ago and has been continued to be refined. And one of the important aspects of block studding is it needs to be a really precise fitment. See, I'm working it in there. All right, there we go. Once we've got it started, we're dropping down in. With the entirety of the block having a very small tolerance to the stud. That way, once the block's tightened down, with all 16, 18, depending on the block configuration, studs even more in a 20B because you're coming from both sides and all the way through, greatly strengthening the block if properly done right. Part of the trick is proper machining. We offer the service. We've found that doing each plate independently, milling the plates and rotor housings, and then coming in and reaming to a precise fitment allows us not only to create strong blocks with precise fitment to the studs, but it also allows us to duplicate this, meaning if something does occur down the line, non-block failure related, because I've never seen a properly studded block crack or fail, maybe you blow an apex seal or spin a bearing, we're capable of machining any replacement components that are thereby able to fit back into your block because our studding is always on the same hole. And we're always trying to keep everything as true as possible with our machining and reaming. So tricks to keeping a 20B, 13B, 4-rotor, 5-rotor, any of those types of engines strong, primarily for boost, high horsepower, and occasionally high RPM application, is you want to stud your block. That's going to reduce the twisting. And in boosted applications, it's going to reduce the rotor housing loading and flex that applies pressure to the cast portions of the block and can lead to the cracking, usually in the rear, center, or front oil gallery, because the rotor housing under compression is trying to move outward and the aluminum is just physically able to flex and give more than the cast iron. And it can happen due to twist, boost expansion, or detonation pressure. And I've seen that in all cases, studding a block properly basically eliminates that cracking issue. Up until you get into the 40 pounds of boost plus range, then you're kind of on your own. You got to pray a lot. And depending on, excessive RPM, but within normal physics of rotaries, you're not talking, talking under 40 pounds of boost, under 10,500 RPM. This is a great way to apply aftermarket parts that are available to OEM blocks and add a lot of strength, durability, and those things combined give you longevity, even in racing applications. So that's just kind of some of the things I've learned. KMR, remember, this is just my thoughts, what I've seen work. Everybody's got their own recipes out there in the rotary world. There's other ways to strengthen blocks, so to each their own, but for KMR, we're running 1,000 horsepower 20Bs with half-inch studs, and some of those blocks have almost 7 years of racing on them at this point. So happy wrapping out there. This block's going to ship, but I wanted to give it a farewell, talk about how studding needs to be precise. You shouldn't have a loose fitment. It needs to be within a thou or two, because the block will expand as it heats up. If it's too loose, you're not going to get the strength. If it's too tight, you're going to cause the block to bind. So keep it precise, keep them from twisting, keep those rotaries running. Thanks for watching. KMR.